I think at the time of me making this video, I have reread the latest chapter of My Hero Academia at least 4 or 5 times now because of the content that was in said chapter. Quite the dark chapter. It was a very, very dark chapter. And it really sets the tone for this arc, which it's already been set kind of because of what's been going on with Eri and all Overhaul and all of that, but this is really dark, because what Night Eye says really can lead down many different paths that Horikoshi wants to take. And it really clarifies a little bit more about Night Eye's character, but also how he views All Might, Izuku, and probably himself. The first half of this chapter is spent talking about the plan. The plan to save Eri, the plan to stop this, drug that's being distributed amongst the entirety of the country that can completely destroy quirks. They talk about a plan to stop this, and they set in motion to where they can go to individual locations around the country, and then they look around to see if they can find the drug or whatever to put a stop to this. That's kind of what was going on. And throughout the entirety of the first chapter, it's mainly showing how far Night Eye goes to get 100% success rate. And I feel like because of this, of how long it takes for him to probably build a case up, for him to get his, success rate up as close as possible to 100%, I feel like the reason why he does this is probably because of All Might. He is someone that's very intelligent. He is someone that has a very analytical mind. But at the same time, though, I feel like a lot of his personality is probably from his time he spent with All Might. We know he's an All Might fan. He's a super fan. He really cares about All Might. We know he used to be under All Might. It's even stated in this latest chapter. We know that he tried to warn All Might of his death. He tried to stop All Might, do anything he possibly can, but All Might pretty much turned the other cheek and kind of said no and continued doing what he always does, being a hero, even if it is the result of madness, which that is the key word here. Madness. That is something I didn't really expect to hear in this chapter, which really opens your eyes up to All Might and Izuku and their characters and what they have been doing throughout this entire series. Let's look at it like this, okay? All Might and Izuku, they are heroes. They're heroes that do what they want to do. For instance, they're heroes that will save people, not for money, not for fame, but because they want to save someone. And in some cases, even though it's a good thing they're doing this, you can look at it as if it's a side of madness. Like, they have to be mad to do something like this. Going that far to break your body. And there was even emphasis on that in this chapter. I mean, it was on All Might, but also on Izuku. The last panel of this chapter, you see Izuku holding up his fist, and you see scars all over his arm and fist, which proves how much he has damaged his body already at such a young age. And we've seen this time and time again throughout the entirety of My Hero Academia. We've seen it where Izuku has shattered his arms, he has hurt his legs, broken his legs. We've seen a lot of things he's done throughout his journey to where he has not really cared about his body at all. He just breaks it to little pieces just to save someone else, a child or whatever, which is a very noble act. But at the same time, though, someone to go that far constantly over and over through that pain, you have to be mad. There has to be some form of madness inside of you for you to even go that far. And when Night Eye states that in this chapter, it really makes a lot of sense. We've been looking at this from a very different perspective this entire time, and also we've been looking at it as if, maybe what the heroes are doing are actually a good thing. For instance, what All Might and Izuku are their prime example of proper heroes. Maybe that really isn't the case, because let's look at the worldview of My Hero Academia. We know, thanks to Stain, that the world is messed up. We know that heroes are not really proper heroes. They're more in it for the money than anything else. They're more in it for fame or whatever, and that's not really what a hero should be about. For instance, allowing this villain to roam free, committing crimes or whatever, and then once the villain, rakes up in the status or whatever, and then, this hero comes in and takes that villain down, obviously they'll get more fame and then more recognition and then money, whatever, and that's kind of what a lot of heroes were doing, but also just They were not really caring about saving people. They didn't even really care at all. They would be willing to allow people to die as long as if they could continuously move up in the rankings or whatever. And that was proving a point of what Stain was trying to show, that all these heroes in society, there's something really wrong. The way society is, it's broken, something needs to be fixed. And this, thanks to what happened to Stain, it caused an entire PR incident to where the villains, started kind of more of an uprising. And that was even mentioned in this latest chapter, thanks to Stain, revealing the truth of how heroes really are. But then, what really stood out to Stain was that All Might, he was someone that was a proper hero. He was someone that didn't think about fame, fortune. He wasn't thinking of allowing a villain to roam free or whatever. He would do it by how he wants to do it. He will save someone if he wants to save them because he is there. And that was really showing a prime example of how All Might was completely different from all the other heroes, and also Izuku as well. And from Stain's perspective, All Might looks like the perfect person. He looks like the perfect hero. And so does Izuku. But now from this chapter, from the perspective of Night Eye, and seeing what he was, saying, but also Aizawa as well, because clearly Aizawa also thinks very similar to what maybe Night Eye thinks, you could see that the perspective of All Might, what All Might and Izuku are doing, is also wrong. There's something very wrong with the way they do their work. Even though it's commendable, it's honorable, they don't care about themselves. They don't care about their body. Which, that is what is really obvious when you think about it. All Might has shattered his body to the point to where he can't even do his hero activities anymore. And I'm willing to bet you before everything is said and done, thanks to all of this foreshadowing and build up to All Might's death, it's going to be a merciless death. Most likely All Might, even though he has no powers now, I feel like he's probably going to jump in to save someone, he's probably going to die. I feel like something like that's going to happen. But that proves a point. All Might and Izuku are the type of people that even if they have no powers, even if, they're going to destroy their body, like they're dead once they're done, they will do it regardless. They don't think about it. They're willing to go in and die for that individual. They don't care about their life. Their life is not worth it, apparently. And that's how you can kind of view the way they represent themselves. Their life is worthless compared to saving everyone else, which, that's really messed up. So, I like what Night Eye said, but also how Aizawa is also implying that as well with his combo with Izuku. It's just showing that maybe there is more here to All Might's character and Izuku's character than meets the eye. Maybe they're not the proper heroes that we really should have in this series, and maybe there should be some changes done as well to All Might and Izuku too, because it seems like there is some problems there that needs to definitely be corrected. Anyways though, speaking of Night Eye's ability, Night Eye, he reveals his quirk ability. His quirk ability, we already knew he could see the future, but it's a little bit clarified in this chapter, and we don't really know necessarily if Night Eye clarified his entire ability or not, because there is a likely possibility he could have been, withholding information. For instance, holding back some parts of his quirk ability, and he just didn't want to say anything. I mean, there could be a case of possible spies to, just not wanting to reveal certain dark parts of his ability or whatever. Maybe he kept some things to himself. I mean, this is a type of character that thinks about everything and tiptoes around, and is willing to make sure he can increase the chance to almost 100% before he really initiates any plan. So knowing how he is as a character, there is a very likely possibility he might have thought of a potential spy amongst, his group, and maybe he didn't want to say anything. Maybe he didn't reveal certain parts of his ability or whatever. That is something maybe that could be going on there. And we do know there is a spy. We know there is a spy in the school. What's to say there isn't a spy amongst this group? We have no idea. So that's the main point I want to get at. But it's not just that either, though. We also have to factor in what he said about his ability. So apparently, his ability, he could see the future of an individual, which we already know of. And because of that, he can only see it for up to 1 hour. So let's say he looks at Izuku, he could see, 1 hour. He could look into Izuku's, future and all that, and look at it for an entire 1 hour. But the thing is, though, once he uses that ability, he cannot use it again for another 24 hours, so it's on a cooldown. Now, like I said, there could be other things to this ability we are unaware of, because maybe he was, holding back some information. But overall, though, from what we got from this chapter, after he uses his quirk ability, he views someone's future, he can't use his quirk ability for the next 24 hours. It goes on a cooldown, so to say. And this is a useful ability, but at the same time it comes at risk, because if he accidentally uses his ability at the wrong time, and something happens maybe 30 minutes from then after the ability deactivates and you need to see someone else, there's nothing he can do. So his ability is something that is a really good ability, but it has a lot of restrictions. You need to know when to properly use it. But then it doesn't just stop right then and there. We also have to factor in Night Eye viewing someone's life. Now, it's one thing to be able to see someone's life, maybe see their immediate future, maybe like an hour from now, but it's another being able to see their entire life and possibly see how they die. And most likely, judging by what Night Eye was talking about, most likely every time he does use that ability, he could possibly see their death. And because of that, that's probably why he doesn't like using it. He's probably scarred by it because of All Might. He's probably really scarred about whatever happens to All Might, and that's probably why he doesn't like to use it. When he said, like, you know, death in their future, most likely he sees their death. And so that means if he looks at Izuku or any other character, he probably sees their death. Or there can be another stipulation to his ability, which this is a little bit dark, but it's also a possibility. What's to say that his ability doesn't also work on himself? So, like, what if Night Eye could use his ability on himself to see his own future? And let's just be completely real here, okay? Let's just think about this from a moral standpoint, but also hypothetical as well. Morally, you probably shouldn't look at your future, because if you do, it could lead to a lot of problems. Number one, asking yourself, was there any purpose? Was there any point? Because if the future is already predetermined, if it can't be changed, then obviously, if you see your future and you can't change it, you're gonna just feel discouraged, and then you're gonna feel like everything was just useless. And so, because of that, using that type of ability on yourself, morally, it would not be good at all. But also, hypothetically, though, since we are humans, most likely, I feel like Night Eye, if he could do that, he probably already did. I'm willing to bet you he probably looked at his own self and saw his future. And if so, he probably saw his death. And what's to say that his quirk ability doesn't work past his death? For instance, let's say he dies 30 minutes from now, okay, in the series. And All Might, you know, dies. Like, he saw All Might's death, okay? Let's actually go an example. Let's say All Might dies in 28 minutes, okay? After, you know, this chapter. And then Sir Night Eye dies 30 minutes after, okay? If, let's say, Izuku was to die 32 minutes after, he couldn't see that, because it's past Night Eye's possible future. So if anything's past where Night Eye will live, that means that he can't see it. Maybe that's a stipulation to his ability. So maybe the reason why he can't see certain possible futures is because he's already dead at that point, so he can't see it. But he also does go in link to explain that when he does see someone's future, he's in their shoes. He sees it from their perspective. So let's also look at it from a darker perspective as well. Let's say that Shigaraki, okay? Shigaraki or Overhaul. They pop up, they see, you know, Night Eye, and they know what he's done or what he's trying to do, plan, whatever. They walk up to him, and somehow you have it to where Night Eye can see the future of Overhaul, okay? He can look into the future of Overhaul, he sees it, and Overhaul's facing him. Automatically, since he could see Overhaul's future, he sees his perspective. So from his perspective, he knows what Overhaul's going to do. And what's to say that if he does die, if he's watching, let's say, Overhaul in his perspective, what's to say Overhaul doesn't kill him in this, like, possible future, and he actually sees how it looks from his perspective? That would be really messed up. Think about how that would mess with your mind if something like that happened. So, yeah, that potential possibility. Who knows? And maybe that might happen. Overhaul will see his death from another person, and then he'll realize all is hopeless or whatever, and then he dies. Who knows? Anyways, though, let's talk about Eri for a second. So, Eri, the little girl, she is in a very sad state, and I feel very, very sorry for her, because she is being just ripped apart and been assembled once again just to make these bullets. We found out about this in, you know, the last chapter. It's very dark, and it's really messed up. And I feel bad for her because she's probably been through so much pain. It's just ridiculous. She's probably never really experienced any kindness at all. And from the chapter, we could see that with Izuku trying to save her, and, you know, when he was wrapping his arm around her and all that in his hand, it looked like, he was trying to protect her. And she reacted to that in this chapter. It's kind of like her own only shining light. Like, this was the only person in her entire world, her entire existence, that was truly that nice to her. And so she's looking at Izuku like he's a really cool person. He's someone that's, made me feel better about, whatever was going on around me. And I feel like that right there just shows how sad her life is. I know many are going to want to pick jokes at this and laugh at it, saying, oh, Izuku, he has that hand powers to where he can make a lolly fall in love with him or something. I know many are probably going to go on the lines to say something like that for this chapter. I already know it. I know it. I've seen enough manga and anime to know that's what some are going to be commenting. But however, instead of just focusing on something that's irrelevant, I want to focus on the main message there. That Eri, she has been through so much, but something like that just so small to happen to her, to affect her so greatly, it just proves how bad her life has been. And also her room as well, just how her room was depicted with, the happiness and all that, even though we know there's no happiness around. That's messed up. It's really messed up, like really beyond messed up, and I just feel so bad for her. And the way this arc has been very dark, what's to say that she might not die permanently? I mean, that would be kind of crazy. I mean, just imagine this, okay? Like, she just dies in front of Izuku and all that, and he can't do anything. Like, he can't do anything to save her or whatever. How messed up would that be, like, if she just dies? Just explodes or whatever by overhaul. It just blows her up, and then she's gone completely. How do you think Izuku would react to that? That he couldn't save her. She just died like that. That would definitely move some character development for him. Like, that would serve to be a lot of character development. And, I mean, that would be interesting if, Horikoshi wants to go down that path with Eri if she is to die. But I don't know if he's willing to go that dark. I mean, Hunter x Hunter has had some dark moments. And, I mean, that's a shonen. So, what's to say something like that can't happen, My Hero Academia. We'll see where Horikoshi takes it. So yeah, besides all of that, one last thing to talk about. Let's talk about Aizawa and how he had a combo with Izuku, and let's talk about, Sun Eater, how he talked to Togata. So, Aizawa Sensei, a very good sensei. Absolutely love this man. I've loved him since the first time he was introduced, but just seeing how much of a good teacher he is, how he's just sitting there helping out Izuku, making him feel better or whatever. It was just a really good moment, and I really like, Aizawa's character, and just seeing how he's being a really good sensei. It's just such a nice contrast compared to All Might. Now, don't get me wrong, All Might is a very good sensei, too. He's not the best teacher, he's admitted, but he's still a good person and a good teacher. He tries. But Aizawa, the contrast, like the difference between the two, is just so vast. It's ridiculous. And when you see Aizawa sitting there talking to Izuku, and he's like, look, I'm going to allow you to be in this operation, because if I didn't allow you, you most likely would go off running and doing your own thing, and you wouldn't be following the rules. So, yeah. And the reason why he says this is because he understands what type of person All Might is, and he understands what type of person Izuku is. He understands that madness inside of them. So because of that, he didn't want Izuku running off and getting himself hurt even more, because we've already seen what has happened to his body already. So most likely that's what Aizawa was trying to say. He didn't want Izuku to get hurt anymore, so it's better that, he knows that he's going to be doing so-and-so than wondering in the back of his head, is Izuku going to be running out trying to save this girl, doing his own little thing, which he knows he would, but he just doesn't know how he would do it. So it's better to keep Izuku in the fence, or he knows where he's going to be at. Now, speaking of Sun Eater and Togata, a very meaningful moment as well, because Togata has always been shown to be that one that is like the sunshine. He's this bright light. He's a bright hero, a bright future ahead. He's someone that's always smiling every time he's been on, screen or in panel. We've always seen him smile. And seeing someone like, Sun Eater that's always very negative or depressing, being the one to cheer up Togata, it really shows how much failing to save Eri really affected him. And that was a really good display of emotions from, Horikoshi in this chapter, the way he was showing that through the character expressions. Just job well done overall, and I was happy to read this chapter. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.